Before you trust your next instinct, there's something you need to know. The most dangerous person you'll ever trust probably won't look dangerous. They won't threaten you. They won't manipulate you. At first, they'll make you feel comfortable, safe, familiar, as if you've known them long before you actually met. And that's exactly where this investigation begins, because every year, millions of intelligent people place their trust in the wrong person, the wrong partner, the wrong friend, the wrong leader, the wrong stranger. Not because they lack intelligence, but because the human brain carries a powerful illusion. It quietly mistakes what feels familiar for what is safe. Now ask yourself something. Have you ever trusted someone without knowing why? No evidence, no proof, just a feeling. Where did that feeling come from? Did it really belong to them? Or had your brain already reached a conclusion before you were even aware of it? Here's the unsettling truth. Your brain was never designed to wait for certainty. It was designed to predict. Every face you meet is silently compared to faces you've seen before. People who protected you, people who rejected you, people who betrayed you, people you've forgotten, but your brain never did. In less than a second, without a single conscious decision, your mind begins searching for patterns. Have I met someone like this before? Did people like this keep me safe? Or did they hurt me? It doesn't ask those questions in words. It answers them with a feeling. And feelings arrive long before explanations do. By the time that stranger speaks their first sentence, your brain has already started writing the opening chapter, not from who they are, but from who they remind you of. Which means the greatest threat to your judgment may never be the person standing in front of you. It may be the invisible patterns already living inside your own mind. So tonight, we're opening a psychological investigation, not into manipulation, not into deception, but into the hidden system that quietly decides who you trust long before logic ever gets the chance to speak. Because if your brain can choose the wrong person without asking your permission, then one question becomes impossible to ignore. Who has really been making your decisions all this time? Every investigation begins with the obvious suspect, and in this case, most people believe they already know the answer. People trust the wrong person because they were manipulated. It sounds reasonable. After all, manipulators often know exactly what to say. They know how to smile, how to flatter, how to make you feel understood. So perhaps that's the entire mystery. Perhaps the wrong people are simply better actors. But then a strange question appears. If manipulation is the whole answer, why do intelligent people, experienced people, even psychologists, sometimes trust the wrong person? Surely they should recognize the act. Yet history tells a very different story. Brilliant investors have handed their fortunes to fraudsters. Experienced detectives have believed convincing lies. Successful business leaders have trusted the wrong partners. Even people who spend their lives studying human behavior can still be deceived. Which means there's something manipulation alone cannot explain. Now imagine two strangers. The first walks into the room, laughing, confident, relaxed. Within minutes, people seem naturally drawn to them. The second says very little. They hesitate before speaking. They seem nervous, almost invisible. Most of us would quietly reach the same conclusion. The first person feels trustworthy. The second doesn't. But here's the problem. Confidence isn't honesty, and nervousness isn't deception. Your brain loves shortcuts. It notices one visible behavior and quietly builds an invisible story around it. They smiled, so they must be kind. They speak with confidence, so they must know what they're talking about. They seem anxious. Maybe they're hiding something. Notice what just happened. You didn't discover the truth. You created a theory. And the moment that theory appears, your brain begins searching for evidence that confirms it. Not because it's trying to deceive you, but because uncertainty is expensive. The brain would rather reach a quick conclusion than remain in doubt, even if that conclusion is only part of the truth. So maybe manipulation isn't the real suspect. Maybe confidence isn't either. Maybe we've been investigating the wrong suspect from the very beginning, because the next suspect isn't standing across the room. It's already standing inside your own mind. At this point, our investigation has taken an unexpected turn. The evidence doesn't fully support manipulation. It doesn't fully support confidence either. So, who's left? Imagine there's a security guard living inside your mind, one that never sleeps, never takes a break, and quietly watches every person you meet. Its job isn't to discover the truth. Its job is much simpler: to answer one question as quickly as possible. Am I safe? Because for most of human history, waiting too long for the right answer could be fatal. Thousands of years ago, your ancestors didn't have the luxury of carefully analyzing every stranger. A few seconds of hesitation could mean the difference between survival and becoming someone else's meal. So evolution built something extraordinary, a brain that predicts before it understands. Not perfect predictions, fast predictions. And that difference changes everything. Your brain doesn't begin by asking, "Who is this person?" It asks something much older. Who does this person remind me of? Those are two completely different questions, and they lead to completely different answers. Think about the last time you met someone new. Did you notice how quickly your mind began filling in the blanks? Maybe they reminded you of a trusted friend, a strict teacher, an old partner, a parent, someone who once made you feel safe, or someone who once broke your trust. The stranger hadn't revealed their character, but your brain had already begun searching for familiar patterns. Psychologists have spent decades studying how quickly we form first impressions. Some classic research found that people could sometimes reach surprisingly similar impressions after seeing only a few brief moments of another person's behavior. At first, that sounds almost impossible. Could your brain really understand someone in just a few seconds? Maybe, sometimes. But here's the part most people never hear. A fast impression is not the same thing as a complete understanding. Your brain can detect signals without knowing the full story. It can recognize patterns without understanding why those patterns exist. And that's where things become dangerous, because certainty arrives much faster than evidence. The feeling of, "I'm sure about this person," often appears long before the facts do. And once that feeling appears, your brain naturally begins looking for reasons to support it. Not because it's trying to fool you, but because uncertainty has always been expensive. Now the investigation takes another unexpected turn. If your brain is constantly comparing new people to old patterns, then one question becomes impossible to ignore. Where did those patterns come from? Who taught your brain what safety looks like? Because if we can answer that, we may finally discover why the wrong people so often feel like the right ones. Every investigation eventually reaches the moment when the evidence points to someone nobody expected. This is that moment. We've questioned manipulation. We've questioned confidence. We've even questioned the brain itself. But the brain was never the real culprit. It was only following a map. The real question is, who drew the map? Imagine two children walking into the same room. One grows up in a home where love feels calm, where safety sounds gentle, where trust is earned slowly. The other grows up in a world of unpredictability, where affection can disappear overnight, where kindness is followed by anger, where love and fear often arrive together. Years later, both children become adults. They meet the exact same stranger. They hear the exact same words. They see the exact same smile. Yet one immediately feels safe. The other feels uneasy. What changed? Not the stranger, the map. Because your brain doesn't begin drawing that map the day you meet someone. It begins much earlier. Every meaningful relationship leaves a mark. Every betrayal draws another line. Every act of kindness, every disappointment, every promise that was kept, every promise that was broken. Each one quietly teaches your brain what to expect from other people. Over time, those experiences become patterns, and eventually, those patterns become instincts. That's why two people can live through the exact same conversation and walk away believing completely different stories. One says, they seem honest. The other says, something feels off. Neither realizes they're not only judging the stranger, they're judging through the lens of everything that came before. Psychologists call one part of this process confirmation bias. Once your mind forms an early belief, it naturally begins searching for evidence that supports it. And the details that don't fit? They're remarkably easy to overlook. Imagine deciding, within the first minute, this person is trustworthy. Suddenly, their kindness becomes proof. Their confidence becomes proof. Their generosity becomes proof. Even small warning signs begin to fade into the background. Now imagine the opposite. You decide, I don't trust them. The same smile feels fake. The same confidence feels arrogant. The same silence feels suspicious. The person hasn't changed, only the story has. And once a story feels true, the brain quietly begins protecting it, not because it wants to deceive you, but because certainty feels safer than uncertainty. Which brings us to the most uncomfortable discovery of this entire investigation. Maybe the people who hurt you didn't earn your trust because they were extraordinary. Maybe they simply matched a pattern your brain had learned years before you met them. And maybe some of the best people you'll ever meet never had the chance because they didn't feel familiar. If that's true, then the greatest danger isn't trusting the wrong person. It's never stopping to ask why they felt right in the first place. Because the moment you begin questioning the feeling itself, the investigation changes forever. You're no longer asking, can I trust them? You're asking, why does my brain want to trust them? And those are two completely different investigations. At this point, our investigation reaches an unexpected conclusion. The real danger was never manipulation. It was never confidence. It wasn't even familiarity alone. The real danger was certainty. The moment your brain whispers, I know exactly who this person is, the investigation quietly ends. And the moment the investigation ends, your blind spots begin. Imagine a detective who decides who committed the crime before collecting the evidence. What happens next? Every clue starts pointing toward the same suspect. Every contradiction is quietly dismissed. Every unanswered question is explained away. Not because the detective is dishonest, but because once the mind commits to a story, it naturally begins protecting it. Your brain works in remarkably similar ways. It doesn't simply collect information, it interprets it. And every interpretation is shaped by expectation. That's why the people who understand others best aren't necessarily the smartest. They aren't the loudest. They aren't the most confident. More often than not, they're the most curious. Curious people delay their conclusions. They replace certainty with observation. Instead of asking, can I trust this person? They ask, what have I actually observed? Notice the difference. One question searches for a feeling. The other searches for evidence. Real trust isn't built in a moment. It's built across many moments, not through promises, through patterns, not through words, through consistency. Anyone can appear kind for 5 minutes. Anyone can sound confident for one conversation. Anyone can say exactly what you want to hear. But consistency is much harder to perform. How does someone behave when they don't get their way? How do they treat people who have nothing to offer them? What happens when they're under pressure? When no one is watching, when keeping their word becomes inconvenient? That's where character begins to reveal itself, not in perfect moments, but in imperfect ones. When maintaining the mask requires more effort than dropping it. And perhaps that's the biggest difference between intuition and wisdom. Intuition gives you a first impression. Wisdom knows that every first impression is only a hypothesis, one that deserves to be tested, because the goal was never to stop trusting people. The goal is to stop giving certainty to someone who hasn't earned it. And once you understand that, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop searching for perfect people. You start noticing reliable patterns, not certainty, evidence, not quick answers, better questions. Because sometimes the smartest decision you can make isn't trusting your instincts immediately. It's becoming curious enough to let reality speak before your assumptions do. Let's return to where this investigation began. Imagine meeting someone for the very first time. The same smile, the same handshake, the same conversation. Nothing about them has changed, but something about you has. This time, when your mind whispers, I trust them, or something feels wrong, you don't rush to believe it. You pause, you watch, and you ask yourself, am I seeing this person? Or am I seeing my past? Because that's the question most people never ask. Throughout this investigation, we searched for the reason. People trust the wrong person. We questioned manipulation. We questioned confidence. We questioned first impressions. In the end, none of them were the real answer. The real answer was a pattern, an invisible pattern built from every relationship you've ever had, every kindness, every betrayal, every disappointment, every moment that taught your brain what safety was supposed to feel like. Your brain was never trying to deceive you. It was trying to protect you. The problem is that protection is based on yesterday, not today. A pattern that once kept you safe can quietly become the reason you overlook danger or push away someone who deserved your trust. That's why wisdom isn't learning to trust everyone, and it isn't learning to trust no one. Wisdom is learning to question the feeling before you follow it, because feelings are not facts, they are predictions. Sometimes brilliant, sometimes beautifully wrong. Real trust isn't built in a moment, it's built across moments. Not through promises, through patterns, not through words, through consistency, not through charm, through character. The people worth trusting rarely ask you to trust them. They simply become the kind of person who earns it, quietly, patiently, again and again. Maybe that's the greatest lesson this investigation has uncovered. The most dangerous people aren't always the best liars. Sometimes they're simply the people who feel comfortably familiar. And the safest people aren't always the ones who make the strongest first impression. Sometimes they're the ones who quietly rewrite it. So before you trust your next instinct, pause. Not because your instincts are broken, but because they are only your brain's first prediction. The real question was never, can I trust this person? It was always, why does this person feel trustworthy to me? Because the moment you begin asking that question, something remarkable happens. You stop judging people through the lens of yesterday, and you finally give yourself the chance to see them as they really are. Maybe that's what wisdom has always been. Not seeing more, seeing more clearly.